Okay, so got an update on my NAS expansion project. I have managed to get myself some new of these Western Digital Blue 1TB drives, and what I did is I've hooked them up, put two in the top cage, two in the bottom cage, got them into this spare BRI-10, I think, an IBM controller. Now, interestingly, these ones are based off the LSI 1068E chip, which doesn't support anything over 2 terabytes. If you chuck a 3 terabyte drive in and connect it to that, the maximum you'll see is about 2.2 terabytes. So if you're planning on going bigger, it's better to get something like a IBM M1015, which I've got one tucked away in there, and flash it to IT mode instead of RAID. Also, I have it hooked up with these 8086 to 808 8484 adapters, or conversion cables. If you're wanting to do something like that, then you have to make sure that you get the correct type of cable, because you have to get this particular end specifically for the controller and this one for the host. Otherwise it may not work. I haven't tested it, but from what research I've done, that is how it is. So for my testing of my power supply, I unplugged my previous or my current RAID setup, just so nothing was going to go wrong there. All my data's safe. And I tested this by setting it up in probably the least tolerable setup you can imagine, which is having these two as striped, and then I extended the volume with another stripe, so no redundancy whatsoever. One drive dies, everything gone. So initially I powered it on, built the array, and copied some data to it. Then what I did is I powered this off, and I then shut down the server completely. Turn this back on, turn the server back on, it booted up, it recognised the volume, all the data was there, I could still access it, a couple of movies, could play them, no problems. So the next test I did was to power it off while it was booted, and then power it back on while it was still running, and it would see the discs come back online, but the volume itself would not come back online. So even trying to import the volume, nothing shows up. But I shut everything down, shut this down, left this on. Interestingly enough, the server did not want to shut down after this had been switched off. I actually had to, it got to a stage where it got stuck, and I had to force it off. And the same again when I tried powering it on. While it was running, I had to manually shut this down as well. But then, after booting back up, all of this came online, was fine, no problems. So pretty pleased with that result. And the last test I did was to power this down while I was still copying data to the drives from another machine, and see what the result there was, just in case, while it's writing, which I thought was, highly unlikely. Like, sure, the data that you're copying to it would be, corrupt, but I wanted to see whether it would actually cause any problems with the data that was already written to the drives. My expectation was that it wouldn't, and it turns out that it didn't, so pretty happy with that. Booted it up, everything was there. The data that I had written was still there, but obviously, yeah, it was corrupt and not accessible at all. But yeah, everything else on there was fine, so I am pretty pleased with that result. So now I just need to get even more of these drives so that I can throw another 8 terabytes, or sorry, 7 terabytes at it. Cheers.